right, so today we're going to talk a little bit about Module 1, Lesson 6. This lesson's all about these things called intercepts. Intercepts are points where a graph crosses the x or y axis. So an x-intercept is a point where your graph crosses the x-axis, and a y-intercept is the point where a graph crosses the y-axis. So looking at this example that I've drawn here, this graph definitely has a couple of intercepts. If I'm looking for the x-intercept for this point, what I'm looking for is a point where this graph crosses the x-axis. Remember that x-axis is the horizontal axis. It's this one right here. So this point over here is our x-intercept because that's where our graph crosses the x-axis. And we just want to get an ordered pair for that. So this one looks like it crosses over there 2 to the left. So x value is -2. And the y value is 0 here because we didn't go up or down at all. And what you're going to find is every x-intercept is going to have a y value of 0. It's one of those little factors that decides that a point is an x-intercept. It's only an x-intercept if it has a y value of 0. Okay. Similarly, our y-intercept here is going to be the point where our graph crosses the y-axis. So it's going to be this point right up here. Okay. That's going to be 0, 3, right? We're 3 up. We didn't go right or left at all, right? And we really can't. If we're on the y-axis, we won't ever go right or left at all. Our x value will always be 0. I would always think about those facts. If you're thinking about the x-intercept, y is always going to be equal to 0. If you're thinking about the y-intercept, x is always going to equal 0. These are facts that you'll want to remember because they're going to be very helpful as we work with these intercepts in this lesson. Okay, we might be asked for questions like this to find the intercepts and then given an equation. So let's look at what that means here. This is an equation. It's a linear equation. We have those x and y to the first power like we've seen before. And if we're going to find the intercepts, this is where we really want to remember those facts we were just talking about on the previous page. If we want to find the x-intercepts for a graph, what you should immediately think is for x-intercepts, y is equal to 0 every single time. And that's going to be really useful to us here because when we're going to plug a 0 into our equation, when you plug a 0 into an equation, the terms that have those zeros are all just going to go away. They're going to be equal to 0, and we can kind of just get rid of them. Okay, so if I plug that 0 in for y, 6x minus 3 times 0 equals 18. To be honest, I wouldn't even write this typically because I know 3 times 0 is equal to 0, right? And anything minus 0, well, that 0 just kind of goes away. It doesn't change our value, right? So this term, a lot of times we'll just say it cancels off. It's just gone, right? And so that'll leave us with 6x equals 18, which is not bad to solve. We'll just divide by 6 on both sides, and we'll get that x is equal to 3. And so you don't just want to leave your answer x equals 3, though, because that's not what we're looking for here. We're looking for the point that's the x-intercept for this graph. And so this is half of our answer. It's the x value. Remember how we got this, though. We got this by plugging 0 in for y. And so 3, 0 is going to be our x-intercept. These intercepts are typically going to be ordered pairs. We already know what our y value is. We still want to include it in our answer. Okay, so for that same equation, if we want to find the y-intercept, we got to remember our fact here too. Anytime we want to find a y-intercept, what we should be thinking immediately is x equals 0. That's kind of the fact that's going to help us get this thing. And so we're going to do that same thing. We're going to plug the 0 in for x. Again, I'm writing this, but I would never write this. There's no reason to, because when you plug that 0 in for x, that whole term is just gone. 6 times 0 is equal to 0. 0 plus or minus whatever just goes away, right? So really that whole term just gets kind of knocked out right from the very beginning. We're just left with -3y equals 18, and then we just divide by -3, and we get the y value for our y-intercept. Now, again, you don't just want to leave your answer as y equals -6. We're looking for the intercept, which is going to be a point. Okay, this is the y value, and then we just want to remember how we got this. We got this by plugging 0 in for x. So our x value is always going to be 0 when we're finding a y-intercept. So pretty darn nice way to work with these things when we call this a standard form linear equation where the x and y are on the same side like that. Plugging those zeros in, going to give you those intercepts. It's going to make whole chunks of your problem go away. Get you those 2 points pretty quick, and it's a pretty good plan for how to work with these. We can certainly use these intercepts to help us out when we're trying to graph lines, kind of using the same strategies we used earlier in the module. If I want to graph this line, I just need 2 points, right? And this is a line that, again, that's in standard form. The x and y are on the same side. When you have a standard form line like this, getting the intercepts is a very good strategy to get the 2 points that you need, because if I plug 0 in for x in this, that first term is going to go away because it has an x in it. We plug a 0 in, it's gone, right? And then similarly, if I plug a 0 in for y to get my second point, that second term is going to go away, right? So very good strategy using the intercepts when we have a equation like this, because it's going to make whole chunks of your problem go away. Let me show you what I mean. I plug the 0 in for x. Well, 2 times 0 is 0. So this is gone, right? So -6y equals -6 is all that's left. That first term is just out of there. We just divide by -6. We get y is equal to 1. And there is my first point, right? Similarly, I put that 0 in for y. This term is gone, right? -6 times 0 is 0. 2x plus 0 is 2x. It's just gone. That whole term is gone. And now I can solve for x. We'll just divide by 2. And there's our x value. And guess what? All we need to graph a line is 2 points. We got our 2 intercepts. That's the 2 points we need. We are done with our table. And so if we want to graph this thing, all we're going to do is we're going to take our 2 points, we're going to plot them, and then, in this class, really, my math lab is going to connect those up for you, and we'll be all set. So 0, 1, we were not going to go right or left at all. We're just going to go up 1 unit. That is our y-intercept, the point where we cross our y-axis again. Like we've seen in all of these, we know it's our y-intercept because the x is equal to 0. And then similarly, -3, 0 over here is going to be my x-axis. Okay, and then we connect those up, and that's what our line looks like. Okay, so this is a very, very good approach to graphing these standard form lines. We use the intercepts. It's nice because when we plug 0 in, it's going to make chunks of our problem go away, and we can get the 2 points that we need quickly and easily. So very good strategy for graphing lines like this. We'll also have a few problems in this homework assignment that we're asked to graph lines like this where we're missing one of our variables. So this is y plus 6 equals 0. I'm going to start this by just solving for y, get the y on one side by itself. So we'll move this 6 over to the other side, get rid of that. Gives me y equals -6. And from here, there's a few different strategies that you can take to get the graph. Some people are just going to kind of remember what this graph looks like, but I'm not a big memorizer. I'm more of a figure it out kind of guy. So if we don't remember what to do, we can still figure it out. I'm going to set up a little table, a little XY chart here. Okay. And what jumps out at me about this equation that we're given here is there is no x in the equation at all, is there? And so if we have no x, it doesn't really matter what x values I pick. I can kind of pick whatever I want, right? It's not going to, there's nowhere to put them anyway, right? So it's not going to affect our equation. And regardless of what x we choose, our equation tells us that y is equal to -6, no matter what. So each of these y values is -6, okay? And if we take those points and we graph them, 0, -6 is there, 1, -6 is there, 2, -6 is there. All of these points are going to be straight across from each other. So this graph, y equals -6, is a horizontal line. This will be true for any linear equation where we just have y equals a constant. We're going to get a horizontal line every single time. Okay? Very similarly, if we have x equals a constant, okay, we're going to get a vertical line, a line that's running straight up and down. And so if you want to, you can memorize those facts. They will certainly work, right? But if you don't remember that, if you're not sure if your graph is going to be vertical or horizontal, just take this approach, pick the values. In this case, we just picked values for x, whatever we wanted. There's no x to plug into the equation anyway. We get the y's from our equation, plot those points, and we'll get it to work out. Okay? So hopefully that's enough to get you off to a good start here in Module 1, Lesson 6. If you have other questions or if there's anything else I can help with as we go through this module, please let me know.